Here we go, glass of wine. It's Saturday night, and I'm here with old Serge. All right, Serge.
Evening.
Anyway, we decided that we wanted to do a little chat as he's here. We've got an event tomorrow. Well, not an event, but we're doing we're putting up a tent, a big marquee, right? Which is getting ready for this the Meshwi, which is the big dinner thing they have at the end of the year here. Not at the end of the year, but the end of the summer. So old Serge has come over, and we're going to go and do that in the morning, and then I'm going to disappear off to his place for a few days, and then come back and do some more. But anyway, after the chat we did with Mike Williams, big shout out to Mike. It was absolutely brilliant. I know we made a little clip, but I got some amazing little messages from some people. Well, from a lot of people, and I thank you all for that, because I think I've been like blackballed for a few years. So to get I think about 100 subscribers in a few days was pretty cool. But anyway, whatever. But thanks, Mike. You're brilliant, mate. And yeah, the musos are starting to get together bit by bit. I think bit by bit. Anyway, so we decided we made a little list here, a little bit improv as well. And we wanted to talk a little bit about how various new programs we'll call them, are being used to manipulate agendas, right? And we also wanted to talk about some movies, various movies. That's Neil's bag, isn't that right? You're right up there. And one in particular that we just watched again, which was
The Golden Compass.
The Golden Compass, which actually was quite good. And we wrote a few things down here to do with the military. This is all to do with a guy I've been following just for a brief while, who is hilarious. So I'll mention that in a minute. What a lot of these films are to do with. Now, the other thing I was going to say is a couple of people mentioned on the chat with Mike. I called these characters, the ones we all know about, at the creepy table. And yes, I did get that from Matt from Quantum. Big shout out to Matt. I think that's the greatest way of putting it, those at the creepy table. So I did get that, as well as stealing a load of stuff from Chris and Dom from Sheep Farm, which they did it, way back in the day, and it was very funny. So big shout out to those guys. So anyway, the first thing we're going to talk about, we tagged onto a channel called Whisper Jack, which we've just been watching now. Actually, he actually subscribed to the channel, to our channel, which is great. So he's a musician, obviously a musician, does a load of music stuff, but he is absolutely hilarious. But one of the things that he pulled up, and it was a couple of years ago, we watched him, and my good old mum was up visiting Neil for the last few days, and I said to Neil, here, I'll go check this out. It was not the first actually, I don't know how it ran, but anyway, it was this Discovery thing, and it was all to do with the American Civil War, wasn't it?
Yeah, and in particular, two young lads that at the age of 19 and 20 discovered, I can't remember how many it was, but there was a lot of photographs of military men from the American Civil War, which are now in the archive of American history. And the year that they discovered it and these were published, there were already records of these sort of photographs. I think he was saying that theirs was, but there were photographs from 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Very similar or identical photographs.
Yeah. These historic pictures, which are the ones that are kind of framed in these odd frames, we saw them years ago, and we were like, oh yeah, there's something not quite right about these pictures. But anyway, let's call him JW, Whisper Jack, JW. He did a whole thing on these pictures, right? But how he approached it was by using a certain new tech. Let's call it a tech. We won't use the word they love to use, but a certain tech. First letter is A. and how he created almost identical images, you know, of these so-called images of these soldiers and families and stuff, and they're literally identical, and that the faults that you see in these pictures. Now I'll put a link in the description. I always say that on some of these things and I always forget to do it, but he basically over a few days created all these images that look just like these pictures that you just said. Yeah. That apparently came to light. These pictures came out in like 1992 or something. Yeah, apparently, yeah. The archive, the mind control, archive came out. That all these pictures were found, and these two dudes and these two guys, should I say, found all these pictures with their dad and all this. But the story is so contrived. But we won't go into it too much because
it'll spoil it when you watch it.
Yeah, you've got to go and watch it. But what it does is it shows how photo manipulation has been going on for decades. And it goes right back to the pictures, doesn't it? Because he showed the bloke who looks like he's lying on a beach, but apparently he's lying in front of a pyramid and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. Right? So these 2 and 3 part processes, and of course you taking many, many pictures over the years, you know about that, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious when you look into it, like Whisper Jack says, when you start looking at these things and start questioning the actual authenticity of these photographs, which, after seeing what he did with the program that he's been using, and like he says on the thing, his third attempt it got better and it got better, and it all depends on the information that you put in with the algorithms on how the program identifies what you actually want it to do.
Yeah, the commands, right?
Yeah, the commands that you're putting in. And again, like we've said, particularly when you talk about what is real and what is artificially created, you just have to look at the amount of shorts on Facebook and Twitter and all the other types of programs.
Yeah, the people are just knocking out
social media.
They're just knocking out on their phones.
Yeah, just creating things. Army of the Dead.
We use that as a perfect
We use that as an example.
Yeah.
When we watched the documentary about how a lot of it was created on a green screen and is CGI'd, and a lot of the actors weren't together at the time they're doing it, and we know that they're doing that on many of the publications as well now. So if we've got such good technology now, why didn't they have it? Like he said, why didn't they have it 30 years ago?
Yeah,
they must have been able to have it.
Yeah, and what is released, it's like JW Whisper Jack.
WJ, not JW.
Yeah, but you got JW sounds better though, doesn't it? All right, JW. But anyway, he mentions again a few names of these organisations like DARPA and these clowns. If they release something years later that they already had, what if the thing that they had was actually better than what they're releasing to the public, like the old sat nav and all this kind of stuff, right? But when you look at these pictures that they put out, and like we said before, we're not talking about these events didn't happen. They may have happened on a smaller scale and they made it look a lot bigger. But it's like these things when you see these dead bodies, and you go like, that's not a dead body. They don't look like dead bodies. They look like dummies, right? And stuff like that. And then you look at you look at things like more up to date. Then, of course, now we got colour and it's all digital. Then you go back to these old pictures and you look at them and you go, that doesn't look right either. There's something not right with this. With this picture, it just doesn't look right. And what he did with the American Civil War was that he took the numbers that were put out there, as we talked earlier about the 27,000 or whatever troops that were all got together and like old Serge O'Neill said, he goes, how did they cook for all those people then?
Yeah, how many
27,000 people.
How many chefs were required?
How many? Yeah,
27,000 people on the move.
On the move,
not static on a camp.
Yeah, and so when he showed the pictures, which you can find, it's not difficult to find. You see, I don't know, 20 20 wagons, a few people milling around. Why is there not a big picture of this massive army? And why does it all look a bit odd? It looks odd, right? So, you know, as I said to Neely, you know, a bit of a military campaigner back in the day, you knew what it took to get those amount of people together at the same time. This wasn't something that you just hustled up, was it? Right?
No.
So you're looking back at, so we you know, we get into this military thing. You look back at these big conflicts, and all you military historians out there, you know, good for you. But if you read it from a book that somebody else gave you, just use some common sense and logic. Let's just say, first off, you have to make, who made all the uniforms? Who made all the boots? Now remember, this is pre-machine shop, right? So if we go even further back, as we discussed, we talked about Napoleon, Wellington and all that rubbish, right? Look at the ridiculous hats those guys were wearing. We can't go outside on a windy day with a baseball hat without it blown off. How do you think that this hat that was approximately 1.5 feet, almost 2 feet, 1.5 feet tall, with all... Who made that hat? Right, so we reckon that they were ceremonial...
ceremonial outfits.
Outfits, right?
And there's a lot of publications and a lot of discussion on other people's sites, as we've talked about, when you know, the ones we've just watched from Whisper Jack, talking about ceremonial outfits, and the way that the military style was. They had to get the materials from somewhere, and it's not like modern day military uniforms are mass produced
in China.
Well, yeah, I mean, look at the kit.
Well,
look at the kit that we've got.
We got it all here for when the zombies come. And
nothing wrong with being prepared, is there?
No, absolutely.
And they weren't made of nice, breathable cloth either.
No.
They were made of proper materials. They were made of wool.
Yeah, someone had to spin the wool.
You know, and
dye it.
Yeah, and they're embroidered as well, and they've got gold braid on. They don't have fake brass buttons on. They've got proper brass buttons on. I've seen military uniforms. You have to go to the Imperial War Museum and you look at the different styles.
Your dress outfit, you had brass buttons and you had to polish them.
Yeah.
And you had to buff the knobbles out of your boots.
Yeah.
Till they shone. Now nobody wears buffed boots, right? They're all these canvassy things. Of course they are, because they're more comfortable.
Yeah, apart from the ceremonial stuff. You look at ceremonial colour.
Yeah.
You know, Horse Guards Parade, and you look at the Coldstream Guards and the other guard regiments that were all involved in that, and the ceremonial dress of the household cavalry. It's ceremonial.
Yeah.
I can't imagine, seriously, even though they say it happened, you know, these people galloping down on their horses as the cavaliers, whether it's in France, in the United Kingdom or wherever it was, in this kit with great big... They're heavy. Those helmets are heavy.
Yeah,
I felt
off.
one.
Yeah,
right, with
off.
the tassels, the tassels coming down, and their metal chains around it, and their swords on the side, and their chest plates, and all the other things that we've talked about in regards to the styles of the uniform, and ride into battle.
Yeah. And to probably be mullered up in 30 seconds, right?
Yeah.
So the reason of bringing these things up, it's all part of the same thing. So I class myself as a professional musician, right? So I've been involved in that for a long time. I've viewed some things. I've observed some things. That's my criteria. Whereas old Serge here, and we'll have to tell people where we got the Surgeon's Fen thing from, because we started cutting hair. Oh, how dare you. Ooh. So anyway, hello, my name's Serge. I like to cut hair. I cut my mum's hair now, and I do a pretty good job. Neil was cutting my hair, and he's got to cut it all off again because it's getting too long, looking stupid. But anyway...
You digress.
Surgeon's Fen. So Neil's a professional in his field, right? And a real professional. Like I said, the boys' book of action heroes. So when we look at these things and you go, well, hang on a minute, like Whisper Jack says, this doesn't make any sense. So Neil looked into the Napoleonic march to Russia. It is not possible that many men and gear walked a march to Russia. It's not possible. The horses have to be fed. I don't care what anybody says. All you military experts out there, right, that have got all this, I'm not trying to disrespect you, but use some common sense. If you can't do it today, how did you do it back in that period of time? So let's just look at like with the old world buildings. You know, everybody talks about the old world buildings, the stone, the brick, but who made all the glass? Who was able to power the fountains in these or around these buildings? They were powered by something, which we think we have a good idea about. But let's just look at this army thing. So somebody had to make the uniforms, and prior to making the uniforms, they had to spin the wool, because apparently all wool, right? Like the wool coats in WW1. Not only that, somebody had to make the buttons. They had to make all the leather. They had to make the buckles. They had to make the boots. 27,000 men. That's just one boot. 27,000 doubled. That 54,000 boots for one army or whatever. And then I know you guys are going to go, yeah, but they didn't all wear the same boots and all that. But in a lot of pictures, they're all wearing the same boots, right? Then somebody had to make all the guns. They had to make the bayonets. They had to make all the little charges that they put in, the balls, everything to go with it. It is almost impossible, if you believe the historical narrative, to have been able to do that in that short period of time.
Yeah.
Because it literally happened, and then all of a sudden everybody was in this thing. Whereas, like, if there was something building up, you'd say, we got 2 or 3 years maybe to do that, and we got the machinery to make it. But to be able to, you know, where did you get all this lead shot from?
Yeah. I mean, you just have to look at today's modern day conflicts, or should I say, the historic side, going back to Operation Desert Storm and all the other types of events that followed on from that, and how many people were sent out to Iraq and Afghanistan, you know, from all over the world.
Yeah.
Put on big bases. You've got a big system, a whole network. Yeah.
You went.
A whole network, you know. When you talk about a battalion, when I joined my battalion, which was an infantry regiment out in Germany in 1983, I think it was, 82, 83, you know, the battalion was 900 strong, I think, at that time, something like that.
Yeah.
That was average. I think that was average, you know. And you went from an army service. So we're not talking about the RAF, or we're talking about the Navy. You went from an army service that used to be 120,000 strong in the United Kingdom, and is now about 70, as far as I know, for looking at statistics and all that. 70,000 serving military men and women from the United Kingdom. Army, not Navy or RAF. Well, that reduction, how many people did we say that we looked at? That
in that one thing was 27,000.
Yeah, 27,000.
Something like that.
Something like that. But
Jack will,
you know, when you talk about, you know, I'm not being derogatory, the D-Day landing. So now Grandad.
Yeah, he was in Dunkirk.
Dunkirk. You know, to mobilise that amount of people and send that many people across a channel from all over the world. Well,
150, according to the wiki, believe anything. It says 150, going back to the D-Day land, is 157,000 personnel took part in that operation.
They've got to be fed, they've got to be clothed, they've got to have ammunition, they've got to have water, they've got to have resupplies. What a big network. Now, possibly, I don't know, I wasn't there.
Well, it's a possibility
now,
theory,
we're talking
right?
about, as you're saying, you're talking about something from the Napoleonic era. The Russian Napoleonic era.
Well, look at that. 600,000 men.
600,000 men.
Or 600,000, let's just say, personnel marched to Russia. It's like, no, it's not possible. I don't care what anybody says. You know, like I said, you military guys, you can shoot me down. I really don't care. It is not possible. There are army guys out there who said we couldn't do it today with transport. That's almost, well, that is 750,000 men. And they fucking lost.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then the Germans, they did the same thing and they lost as well. You know, I mean, years later, you couldn't make it up. Yeah. But the point is not to be we're not trying to be disrespectful. Like I said with Mike, you know, we're just trying to point out abnormalities. company was that?
Abnormalities. Yeah, just for looking at the photographs. I mean, we sort of digressed it because.
Well, we were talking about the American Civil War,
me,
right?
You know.
Yeah, of course it is. It's your thing, right?
Yeah, it's my bag, and I'm not really experienced at it, but I do a lot of research, as you know, as I said when I messaged Mike, the things that you talk about and the things that we talk about together inspire me every day, which makes me want to look deeper and deeper into things. And that's the problem. People don't do that. They'll just accept that as a historic narrative. Now, after watching generated images, right, that Jack's done, and him talking about him creating his own actual character.
He created his own army.
Which has learnt and developed things. Yeah. You start looking at these things and the abnormalities in these photographs, and we've looked at some photographs of the old Ruski Ukraine war, photographs of 4 or 5 soldiers all kneeling around a surface-to-air anti-aircraft rocket with the photograph of the rocket leaving the end of the rocket launcher. Impossibility.
Yeah.
Unless that was set up with the best camera equipment in the world and all that. And if they're in a conflict situation, there is no way. There's no way that there's going to be that type of thing.
See, the thing is, folks, right? There's no difference between me and Neil, right? His job was this, my job is this. What we've discovered is the disappointment. Not disappointment, because it's not like disappointing, like, oh no, but the disappointment of realising that 90% of the people in our businesses, in our work, are bent, right? Crooks. So whether that's musicians, actors, police, chief inspectors, whatever. Now, if you remember, and we're going to talk about Hot Fuzz, which is brilliant, because Simon Pegg says to Bill Nye, he goes, "You can't just make people disappear." And Bill Nye goes, "Yes, I can. I'm the chief inspector." They're telling you in these films what they do, right? Or what the possibility is. But when you look at these things and you just say, well, it's all relevant. It's relevant to what we see, how we perceive things. Once you start looking, and I hate the terms, the rabbit holes and things like that, but once you start looking and you just go, hang on a minute, this doesn't make any sense, right? So as we said about the what Whisperjack did about the Civil War, when you look at the pictures, there's no pictures anywhere that shows anybody fighting. None. And then people go, yeah, well, that's because the cameraman didn't want to get shot. But why are there all these crystal clear pictures of people standing with their hands hidden in their jackets and these tents and everything? And everything looks a bit weird, right? And then you carry on through these. And like we said, we're not saying that people don't get mullered up in these events, because we know they do. Neil's witnessed it firsthand. But again, as Matt says, those at the creepy table, they know how to control the situation. This has been going on since time began. This is nothing new. It's all about the journey. We talked about that earlier on. Talked about it with Mike and so on. Talked about it with little Sarah. It's all about the journey. So when you look at these different things and you go, well, is that even possible? No, it's not possible. There's no way they did this. There's no way they did that. And then when we go to the old yellow and blue, because that's been the biggie 5 years on, I have a library of pictures, which I did one with Sarah, where you just look at these things, he goes, these pictures are a joke. This is not real. So I think we may have said we had a friend here, and I tried to explain that to him, and his head blew off of his shoulders, and he got, not nasty, but he got pissed off. And after about a couple of minutes, I explained a few things to him, and I said, well, all right then. So my brother, who's a professional in this field, he'll tell you the same thing that I'm saying. And it kind of, he sort of understood it. Why do you need to use dodgy pictures to tell a story? That's because you don't have legitimate pictures.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
No one's saying nothing's gone on out there. The same as in a lot of places around the world, conflict.
Yeah.
You just have to look at, well, we won't get political, but you just have to look at all the other types of different events that are going on around the world that everybody knows that are not manufactured to a degree, but they've been going on for a long, long, long time.
They follow a pattern, don't they?
They follow a pattern, and then it's like, well, you know, you said to me the other day, and again we're digressing slightly because we're talking about the uniform side of things and all the other things. You said to me, it's funny how we haven't really heard much about the old yellow and blue, and then I said to you, oh yeah, but Ukraine bombed Russia. Well, you was like, when was that? Well, did they bomb Russia, or did they bomb or launch rockets on the Russian controlled side of part of the Ukraine? You don't know unless you read it, and it's all about publicity.
Yeah.
Again, publicity. What the media wants people to see is what the media projects. The same with these photographs and the uniforms. The abnormalities in those photographs, and there's lots of them, and you've got to go and look at his channel and look at the particular one about the ones that we've watched today, the Russian uniforms and the French hats.
Oh yeah, the hats and the funky outfits
and
in
the funky
Russia.
outfits from the 1900s. And I'm actually gonna
It's hilarious.
see if I can download that book, because, well, not download it, but look at it
it's
online.
hilarious,
Because you can find an online version of it, all 510 pages of it, on good old Amazon.
Yeah.
You know, a reproduction of one of the original ones that's on there, but it just shows the style. So there we go. I said to you upstairs about looking at it, well, why are all the Western films, they've all got the right size hats on, they've all got their Colt 45s and their weapons in leather holsters, and the buckles and everything is all perfect, but actually if we believe these photographs and what these photographs showing the Civil War, they were putting their pistols down their trousers.
Oh yeah, in those Civil War pictures. Yeah.
Great big Bowie knives sticking out the top of their
the
blazers.
pictures. If anyone goes and has a look, you haven't got to explain it. Whisper Jack channel does it the best, right? And like we said, he's like, you know, like with Mark Devlin and the Connections books and so on. These are guys and girls out there that have really spent time on it, and we're just following what they did. But you know, somebody said some time ago, they go, why even bothering doing this? And we said, well, that's because when it's time for us to leave the realm, we'd like to at least leave it knowing that we've been bamboozled many times over and over. But like we said, going back to these events that go on, the characters that are involved, they're all characters, aren't they? All look the same, right? They always got someone. Every now and again you get a boring one like Queer Stalin at the moment. He's just like an ordinary looking dude, but you know, you had the Thatcher with the giant L-net hair, you got old Winston with his, you know, everybody knows what these, the little man with his little funny moustache, everybody knows what these people look like, and that's because they're designed to look like that. They're not just ordinary people. But one of the other ones that I saw as well, which I thought, yeah, now I look at it, was the old classic picture of Billy the Kid, the cowboy.
Yeah.
When you look at that picture, you go, that ain't a real person.
No.
Look at that. It's like a 16-year-old boy, he was called the Kid, standing there. I don't even think you could pick that Winchester up.
The only thing, most of the photographs, particularly the one with the Civil War pictures, and the ones that we watch now from Russia with the Russian clothing, the Russian military clothing and hats, which was in 1865, and then this book that was published later on about Russian fashion in 1867, I think it was.
Something like that. It was later.
Something like that. Later on. Was completely different, and you look at it, and it, you know, the things that are pointing out is there's no scenery behind these people. So,
well,
what did they do? Did they get thousands and thousands of military personnel in to a photographic studio and take these photographs? Why can you see in some of these photographs that there's a cloth backdrop behind them that's the same as you're saying with that one? It's just like, well, where was that photograph taken? There's no western scene behind it. It's a picture, and the background's faded out.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
and it was like he also said, you know, in the the possibility world, as we like to try and call it, not the conspiracy world, is there a possibility? One of the things that he said was, well, you know, when you hear about people saying, well, they can't all be in on it, right, you know, because you're talking about thousands of people. I do think that a lot of them could be in on it because so many people work for these organisations, you know, I mean, C.A, well, they got 350,000 plus people working for them, so they could get them to do anything. But he said, what if there was an algorithm, a computer back in the day, 30, 40 years ago, where they were able to make this scenario back then and then pump it out, because we never saw any of that when we were growing up. When we were out rocking it at the crypt and going to Saturdays and getting pissed up with Alistair, you never saw it, you weren't interested in it. But what if it was just a small group of people in a room that were able to do that? And I think that was a very interesting thing, because it kind of goes into that whole Matrix thing, doesn't it? The whole
not just that. If you believe what has been portrayed in the film The Itcher's Code, right, about a bunch of people that built this computer machine to decipher a code, you know, it's just like, well, there is a possibility. I know we're talking about the 50s, 60s there, but there's a possibility. Well, okay, you're talking about the 50s, 60s. When were these photographs and when were all these things published and when were they found? Well, they come from the 1900s or earlier, but they weren't actually discovered in the 1900s. They were discovered later on. So why haven't they been discovered before? This family, the two boys, or the two young men and the family.
And then what Whisper Jack pulled up was the fact that or not a fact, but the possibility that actually they already had these pictures in the archive before.
Well, he's already shown that some of the pictures that they said they found were already in the archive, or a very similar picture of the same type of person and stuff like that. So
go and watch it. Like I said, I'll put a link in the description, because it's hilariously funny.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
He's a good musician as well. Big shout out to you, mate. If you do listen to this, he's a good musician, some great ideas. Now I'm going to go and get a glass of wine, or top us up, and then we're going to talk about a couple of other things to do with the movies. One thing I would say, like we said about the we've been looking into these forts, you know, these fortifications, and one of the things that we said is that, like with a lot of the old world history stuff, why didn't anybody just go around the back? You got these big giant guns facing out to sea, which didn't have the range to maybe even hit anything that was coming around. And we're going to do another one about the Atlantic Wall, because we both think that a lot of that was there long time before anything kicked off. But that's another story. So I'm going to go and charge our glasses. Then we're going to talk about a few of the movies, especially The Golden Compass, because that is a biggie, I think, simply for the fact that they never made another one. So here we go, part 2. We've just charged our glasses. Mum's upstairs making a chili. Yeah, so anyway, you know, Neil's a big movie buff. I love the movies, but old Serge is a big movie buff, and he's seen some things in films that, you know, like I said, we've gone back to the whole thing about what they're telling us, you know, what's in plain sight all the time. And I know it's an old story and all this, you know, everybody's talked about it, but it is all about the repetition, constantly showing what is going on and why they keep putting these things out. Now, there's two films, The Golden Compass, and the other one is the Simon Pegg, Nick Frost series of films, specifically Hot Fuzz. I think that's a very poignant film. Now, you know, we love the old Shaun of the Dead, The World's End, which I didn't like. Isn't it funny that The World's End movie, the guy's called Gary King? And here I am. Yep. Except I'm obviously considerably better looking than Simon Pegg.
But not as much money.
But nowhere near as much money, because I'm not one of them, right? But anyway, so we're going to look at that series of films, but we're going to look at The Golden Compass, because Neil watched it the other day and he goes, "You've got The Golden Compass?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Watch it again, because I thought it was like a bit crappy, you know. He goes, watch it again and now see what you see and see if you enjoy it. And I thought it was brilliant. Mum watched it as well.
Yeah, and analyse it a little bit more. Not as a. It's listed as a fantasy adventure film. It was released in 2007. The concept of the Golden Compass was actually put together in 2002, but there were difficulties with the screenplay and the writer and everything else, who left and then came back. And it's based on a novel from 1995 called The Northern Lights by Philip Pullman. I've seen it loads of times. I watched it with my kids. They were growing up.
And you did. There was no bell ringing then, was there?
And you're just like, yeah, it's great. Look at this. look at the bears. Look at the animals. Look at these things. You know, blah 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 blah. Why were the pets who weren't pets? They were their companions called demons. Why were there polar bears? Why were there the travelling side? Why were there all these other things that were put in there? And what was the story actually about? And at the end, like you said, because you've written some notes down on it and stuff like that, it's all about the abduction of children, the kidnapping of children, and then being taken away.
That rings in the first 30 seconds, right?
Yeah.
And also, which I thought was really cool, on the DVD, when you first start playing it, it shows you straight away the Tartarian, that whatever you want to call it, you know, names are names, but the steampunk, it shows you like the Emerald City, the beautiful city. It shows you the airships, which they call I can't remember what they call them on that now. The ferry. It's time to get on the ferry or whatever it was. Anyway, again, it's what we like to call computer generated imagery, CGI. It's really well done, but when the young character, the young girl
Lara
in it, when she gets the compass, and of course it's got the old creepy kid man in it, but looking rather dodgy. When Lara opens the compass, it shows the woman, the lady, and then it shows the lightning bolt, and then it shows the child. So instantly, it basically says this woman is dangerous to children. Well, of course it does, because lightning is dangerous, right? Electricity is dangerous, and there's a child. And that was in the first 30 seconds, well, not a little bit more than 30 seconds, right? But it was 100% all to do with stealing children, and that's what they did in the film, right?
Yeah,
but they didn't steal rich people's children.
No. It was about stealing the common person's
the
children.
waifs and the strays, right?
So they were stolen by the gobblers.
The gobblers, yeah.
The gobblers.
From Gobbler's Knob.
Right, who was supported by a group of world rulers called the Magisterium. So there you go, on a different level, because it comes from a trilogy of books, and it was only in America. You know, it was in America where it was named the Golden Compass.
Yeah.
So you've got a superior race of people, the rich, the Magisterium, that were doing what they want to children.
Yeah, exactly. When they do the whole, they split the child from its little character, which is an animal,
the demon,
right?
Demon,
they split the child from there. Now, does that kind of mean that what they were doing was taking away the child's innocence, or does it mean they were extracting the youth from that child? Because if you remember, when Lara found the little fella, he was all like, yeah, he was going freaking crazy, right?
Because he'd been separated.
He'd been separated, but was that because his life force and soul had been sucked away by these leeches? That's what it said to me.
And isn't it funny how they went to the North Pole?
Oh, yeah. Well, there you go, right?
Up to the
but they'd
suck
suck the life force out of this little fella. When they do this explanation and the adults say, well, we're trying to save you, the adults all had their little demon characters. So surely they would have wanted to get rid of them. No, what they were doing was they were sucking the life force out of these children to use it for themselves. And of course, we've got all the stuff to do with the magic liquid we keep hearing about and everything. Like we said, these are just possibilities. It doesn't mean that it's really happening, but they are good possibilities when you look at it. But it was all so Freemasonic.
When you look at it, when we're talking about how they can use CGI, as we like to call it, when you think about the period of time that was released, because it was released in 2007, we're now in 2025, so it's advanced.
Oh yeah,
advanced
it's insane.
It grossed, I'm just reading these up because I hadn't really looked at how much it grossed. It got mixed reviews, but it grossed $372 million worldwide. At the 80th Academy Awards, it won Best Visual Effects and then Best Special Visual Effects at the 61st British Academy Awards. Now, you've got to have some good effects in a film to win Best Visual Effects.
And of course,
and make it realistic.
And it was all part of the old Lord of the Rings group as well.
Yeah.
Because were pretty much the same people that did that. And of course, you had some of the same people in it.
Yeah.
Ian McKellen played the bear and all this kind of stuff, you know.
Yeah, very good.
I just wanted to say just quickly, I forgot this when we were talking about Whisper Jack. Whisper Jack, thanks for calling out Professor Dave, that absolute knobhead. I thought that was brilliant. How anybody can actually believe that clown is a professor is way beyond me. But yeah, great one there, mate. Thanks for that. But yeah, going back to, I digress. Going back to the the Golden Compass. Like we said, we're starting to get to this point now where all these things are starting to add up. Like we said, when we started reading, you know, you've always been a reader, right? Because you had to with work. You had to read reports and stuff like that. But reading, and you put the Bible next to Lord of the Rings. You put Lord of the Rings next to Unfinished Tales. You put that next to all these different so-called fantasy stories. You start to realise that actually they're all connected and they're probably not fantasy stories. Obviously some things are embellished along the way. But again, really, really interesting. And we were just going to say that, like I said, go and watch The Golden Compass. It's a good film. There's definitely a lot in it. Well, you said, why did they not do another? Do you think they got too close to the mark with that?
Well, they left it open, didn't they? They left it open.
Yeah, but they can't do it now because they're all old.
Yeah.
Is that who that is?
Dakota Blue Richards.
That's a good old British name, that made up name. But was she like 30 now?
Oh, I don't know.
Well, she was like 12 in the film.
Yeah.
So it's 20 odd
Without
years
looking
old.
at
But
it.
anyway, they can't make it with the same people because the kids have all grown up, right? Where are
31.
31?
Yeah, 31.
There you go, 31 years old, right? It's apparently still making movies. Anyway, we'll move on from the Golden Compass. But I wanted to bring up a little thing here.
She was 13 when she played it.
13.
Yeah.
But anyway, I wanted to bring up just a little thing here to do with Dad's Army. Now, we've always been big fans of Dad's Army. We used to watch it with my granddad, my grandparents. We love Dad's Army. We watch it all the time. And even in Dad's Army, they dropped a few bombshells, didn't they, right? So, of course, it was a BBC thing. But there was one episode where they had to put the Freemason sign in there. And that was, I think, was in the village hall at the time. Why did you need to put that in there? There was no reason to put it in there at all. But they put that in there. Again, such an old series now. But they still have to drop these little hints in that people can pick up on. But we could go into all the stuff that's in there in that series. But all the series, anything that goes, into that. But the other movie was, of course, as we mentioned earlier, Hot Fuzz. So we love all the Simon Pegg movies, even though we know he's obviously one of them. That's why he's out in Hollywood and in all these films like Mission Impossible. He has to be. So, but anyway, Hot Fuzz. When did Hot Fuzz first come out?
2007.
2007, right?
Yeah.
So, of course, it is basically a remake of The Wicker Man, the original one with Edward Woodward, or whatever his name is. Of course, he's in Hot Fuzz as well. So they've got all the great actors. You've got I can't remember their names now, but they were in like Indiana Jones and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, got all the great actors in there, and the whole film is about secret society, isn't it?
Well, it's about village, isn't it? In the West Country.
Yeah, where they have their own. They have their own
series of gruesome deaths.
Yeah, they have their own secret society, which is, you know, we know these secret societies aren't secret because everybody knows about them, apart from the ones we don't know about, which they never tell you. But anyway, so you have this secret society. It's a great film, very, very funny, and it kind of shows, you know, the rebellion of these two guys, Nick Frost and Simon Pegg. But it's a brilliant film. But what is it all about? Right, it's about bumping people off that don't conform, and they also knock off. So, a spoiler alert here. They also knock off all the kids, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that made me laugh when it first came out, being in the police and doing my training through Ashford, was all the scenarios.
Yeah.
Everything we did, and we read the script when you did scenario training and everything, was all around the village of Sanford.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
Right. And it was.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was. It was all about the village
Sanford.
of Sanford. Right. So the village in Hot Fuzz is around Sanford, Gloucestershire, and that was promoted by the Metropolitan Police Sergeant. It says he's redesignated to a rural town in Sanford, Gloucestershire. So I remember going back to my police training days. I'm in Ashford.
Yeah.
Now, why wouldn't they have done everything written out?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about the other end of that area of the country, right?
Yeah, no, it's all Sanford. You know, and we'd read these scripts, right? You're now in the village, and we had a village in this training centre, which is no longer a training centre. And you'd read the script. You'd get your briefing from the instructor. You're in the village of Sanford. And that was it. And that was just like... For me, Hot Fuzz was also not just a way of them indicating what things were doing. It was a piss take of police training, and it was. That's why they used it.
Of course,
That's why they did it that way. You know, like you said, the comment that you put, "I'm the chief inspector, you can disappear."
Yeah, I can make people disappear.
Well, people can disappear very, very easily. And they don't mean disappear and never be seen again. Mean moved, transferred.
Yeah.
Which is what happened.
Which is what they did to Nicholas Angel. Now, why did they call him Nicholas Angel?
Angle.
Yeah, Angle.
Sergeant Angle.
Angle. Why did they call him Nicholas Angel? How many people do you know whose last name is "Hello, Mr. and Mrs. Angel"? No, because again, it's one of those words that they drop in, talking about all the biblical stuff, the fallen angel and everything. Of course, he wasn't the fallen angel, but there was no reason to call him Nicholas Brown or Nicholas Smith or anything like that. Yeah. Nicholas Angel.
Danny Butterman. How many Buttermans?
Yeah, hello, Mr. Butterman. Yeah, what
brilliant names.
When you think about, let's say, the Simon Pegg movies, as we said, you got Shaun of the Dead, which Hillary told me about, which is about zombies. You got Hot Fuzz, which is about secret societies and murder. You've got Paul, which is about aliens, right? And then you've got The World's End, which is about the end of the world. There's not one film that they've made together which isn't to do with something that we talk about.
Well, the Paul was a separate entity because of the way that was done. Hot Fuzz, Shaun of the Dead, and The World's End came from Three Flavours Cornetto trilogy.
Oh yeah,
they were the three films that were that come under that thing. And if you read what it says on certain things and that, there were over 100 other films that were used as inspiration for the script for Hot Fuzz. And you just have to look at all these other films and you can see them in there, which is a good thing because what they're doing is they're telling you certain things.
Yeah,
they're telling you certain things.
Well, Hot Fuzz was 100% the Wicker Man. I mean, that's why they put Edward Woodward in it.
Yeah.
But again, about secret society. So they never made a film. I mean, we watched Cuban Fury with Nick Frost. We watched that the other day with old, looks super cool in it. Lovejoy. Ian McShane. Ian McShane looked as cool as... But that was nothing to do with anything apart from people dancing. But here's a funny thing. Now, I think I did it with Sarah. Well, I didn't do it with Sarah, but I think we did a thing with me and Sarah. when Cuban Fury came out, the whole film is shot in yellow and blue, right? The whole film. So someone's wearing a blue jacket with a yellow shirt. Someone's wearing a yellow shirt and blue trousers. The place where they're dancing is yellow and blue. When the guy drives down the road, the grass is yellow. He's in a blue car. Everything in that film is yellow and blue. Yellow and blue are the two worst. Well, you know, you're an artist. They're not the good colours to put together like that unless they're mixed, right?
Yeah.
That film came out exactly the same year, almost to the date that the original so-called yellow and blue Ukraine-Russia thing kicked off.
2014.
Isn't that strange,
Yeah.
everybody?
2014.
You would. They have a table in an office where the bowl is blue and the fruit is all yellow. All these things are interlinked. Like we said before, loads of people could go mad over this stuff. It was like we said when I was talking to Mike, all these people that think that these court cases that are going on, people are going to go to jail. They're not going to go to jail, of course they're not, because they all work for the same team, right? It's just observations, and I think that's what everybody has to do, isn't it, really? Just observe things and have a little check, and it will take you down a path. Again, we've said there's nothing to be afraid of, right? Because they can't hurt your soul, because that doesn't belong to you in the first place. A little bit of investigation, and always take these things with a sense of humour. I mean, we've had a laugh, haven't we?
Yeah.
Over some of these things. I mean, just, you know, like I said, I love some of the channels. Like I said, Chris and Don, Mark Devlin, you know, even some of the more serious ones. But my man of the moment's got to be Whisper Jack. You know, he's absolutely hilarious. Once this hot weather disappears a little bit, we're going to be going out and doing a little bit more investigation up your neck of the woods, aren't we?
Yes.
Of some of these old buildings.
Some of the old buildings, and not just that, some of the cave structures.
Yeah.
That I've done some recent research on, looking into the troglodyte history and going back, if you believe it, carbon dating 55 million years plus.
Yeah.
If you believe in carbon dating, which I don't disagree with, but I don't understand the process behind it. If they can date it back 55 million years, then there's going to be things that, as we know, are a lot older.
Oh, yeah.
A lot older. And obviously when we look at some of the structural development that I've talked to you about, and some of the places that we're going to go and visit, over the centuries, what has been built on top of the original foundations, which is why when you look at Rocamadour and you look at Loch Saint Christophe, it talks about all the different settlements that have been in there over hundreds of years, and the different additional structures.
Look at some of those doorways you found where it's like, there's no way anybody could walk in there unless it was like there's 10 feet buried under the dirt, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, so we just wanted to do a little thing, catch up, go over some of these little points and stuff like that again, rambling on, just an improv. I would recommend, and old Serge there would say the same thing, you know. This journey that we're on isn't about, you're not trying to save yourself, right? All you're trying to do is understand, and then when it's time to leave here, I truly believe this, leave here, you leave with, I hate the word, but with consciousness. You were conscious to what was going on. That's the best thing you can do, innit, at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a strong believer, as you are, that when we go, we don't, when you're dead, you're dead. I just don't believe it. And that concept, as you know, is through personal experience. The things that happened to me within the first 6 months of losing my wife, which was, as we know, which has been very traumatic, and was very unexpected. Wasn't it? 55, wasn't expecting anything to happen. Boom, grand cardiac, gone. And it was then, for whatever reason, more, that I think my eyes were open, not because I become a conspiracy theorist. Things happen to me, as you well know, which we've discussed, which are very personal, that opened my insight, and I'm talking about personal experience after my wife passed away. So was I given, not a special power, I'm not a superhero, but was I given something,
An opportunity?
yeah, an opportunity to say, well, let's start looking at things, let's start researching things, let's start opening your mind, because if you develop your mind, I think one of the problems with society these days is people are so fixed. And we're not talking about the sheeple saga and everything and everyone following, but people are so fixed on what they're told instead of what they can unfold and find out themselves.
For themselves.
And you've got to do that.
It's funny, is when my sister-in-law, Neil's wife, we never really got depressed. It wasn't a depressing thing, because I think we'd kind of come to that stage. We've lost a few people here over the last couple of years. Some of it is we know why. Our Audra was a different kettle of fish, right? But it was almost as if it was like, right, see you later. We'll catch up with you soon. It was like that kind of thing, right? It's like when my granddad died, who was one of the greatest blokes ever all time. Neil was there. I was in America, but Neil was there. Well, I couldn't just fly back to, but I never felt that there was a loss.
Because of the experiences that we shared and the same.
I just think that I felt that was as we call it, a passing to the next place. When my gran died, Neil wasn't here, and I had to deal with that. We actually had, which I think me and Mum may have spoken about. We had a party that night because we had it arranged, and I said, well, we're not going to cancel the party now. And everybody came to the party, and our friend saw my gran, alive and well, looking out from her bedroom door. But my gran had already left this realm. That's another story. And our friend wasn't pissed, by the way. She wasn't inebriated. But we believe, me, Neil, and my mum believe that there's something else that comes afterwards. A funny thing about the French is when this happens to them, they just seem to get on with stuff as if I don't think maybe that, all of them, the younger lot, but like a friend of ours, Eve, his wife, she's gone and so on. They're not into this mourning the dead, because I don't think they actually believe that they're gone. I think that they know that at some point in time this will all come back together. And that's not like a thing about hope or, fantasizing and whatever. And as I said to Mike, and I know Neil feels the same way, both of us said we don't want to get eaten by sharks.
No.
We don't want to get tortured to death.
Burnt.
But we're not afraid, or burnt, or
burn.
some shitbag like that, where you're in a hospital for 3 months. But we're not afraid of death, because we really do believe that this journey leads you somewhere else. So anyway, we could go on about this forever.
No, it's another podcast.
I'd like to thank Serge for hanging out. Big thanks to Mike. Bless you, mate. We love you. You're brilliant. I can't go through all your videos because there's so many.
I'm working through them. I've started working through them.
We're going through them.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk to you again. Whisper Jack, brilliant stuff, mate. The guys and the girls that put great comments on all the stuff. It's artists@mailfence.com. If you want to mail me, message me, whatever, I will get back to everybody. Thank you so much. Thanks for old Serge being like big team player. As always. Yeah, we'll catch up with you soon. I stole that from Whisper Jack.